What if Nikon had embraced mirrorless cameras 10 years earlier? Would Sony still rule the market today? Would Canon have fought so desperately to catch up? Once the undisputed king of photography, Nikon faced near collapse. A company that defined an entire era found itself trapped in the shadow of its own greatness. Watching younger rivals sprint past while it stood frozen, clinging to a legacy that had become both its greatest strength and its fatal weakness. From crafting military optics in the fires of wartime Japan to building the cameras that captured humanity's most defining moments, this is Nikon's untold journey, a story of triumph, hubris, and against all odds, survival. But how did a company that defined photography almost lose it all? And what brought it back from the edge? You're watching Alt Buzz Archives, a channel dedicated to uncovering the hidden stories behind legendary camera brands. If you love deep dives into innovation, resilience, and the stories that time almost forgot, consider subscribing. It helps us keep these histories alive. Born in a time of war, Nikon didn't begin by capturing beauty. It began by building precision instruments for battle. The year was 1917. World War I raged across Europe, and Japan recognized a critical weakness. It depended entirely on foreign nations for optical technology. On July 25th, 3 optical manufacturers merged to form Nippon Kogaku, Japan Optical Industries. Their mission was simple but urgent: create a domestic source of world-class precision optics. By the 1930s, the company had established itself as a leader in microscopes and optical instruments. But as the shadow of the Second World War stretched across Asia, Nippon Kogaku was pulled into military production. At its peak, it operated 30 factories with over 2,000 employees, manufacturing binoculars, bomb sights, periscopes, and lenses for the Japanese military. Every instrument demanded absolute precision. Lives depended on it. Then, in 1945, everything ended. Defeat left Japan in ruins. 29 of those 30 factories were gone. The military contracts vanished overnight. The company faced extinction. But out of devastation came reinvention. With a single factory and a handful of engineers, Nippon Kogaku turned its precision craftsmanship toward peace. In 1946, they introduced a new brand name for their camera division, Nikon. 2 years later, in 1948, they released the Nikon F, a rangefinder camera that blended the best of German design with Japanese engineering. It was crude by later standards, but it was a beginning, a declaration that from the ashes of war, something beautiful could emerge. When the world's most dangerous moments needed to be captured, when history unfolded in conflict zones and Olympic stadiums and lunar surfaces, photographers trusted one name: Nikon. The revolution began in 1959 with the Nikon F. It wasn't just another camera. It was a modular system built for professionals who worked in the harshest conditions imaginable. Interchangeable viewfinders, interchangeable focusing screens. A bayonet lens mounts so robust that it remains compatible with lenses made today, over 65 years later. War photographers carried it through Vietnam. Photojournalists brought it to the front lines of revolutions and natural disasters. When David Douglas Duncan documented the Korean War, his Nikon captured images that defined a generation's understanding of combat. The F sold over 860,000 units and dominated professional photography for nearly 3 decades. It wasn't the most technologically advanced camera of its time, but it was the most reliable. In a profession where missing the shot means failing history itself, reliability was everything. Through the 1970s and 80s, Nikon built on that foundation. The F2, the F3 with its electronic shutter. In 1971, a Nikon traveled to the moon aboard Apollo 15. In 1983, they pioneered autofocus with the F3AF. Each innovation reinforced the same message: when it matters most, professionals choose Nikon. By the late 80s, Nikon wasn't just a camera company, it was the camera company, the standard by which all others were measured. But even kings can fall, especially when they fail to see the next revolution coming. In 1999, Nikon gave professionals their first real taste of the digital future. And in 2004, it gave that future to everyone. The Nikon D1 was a revelation, a 2.7 megapixel professional digital single lens reflex that cost a fraction of what digital backs demanded. Shooting at 4.5 frames per second, it made digital photography viable for working professionals. Photojournalists could finally file images directly from the field without waiting for film to develop. The world moved faster, and Nikon moved with it. The 2000s became Nikon's second golden age. The D3 brought full-frame sensors to professionals in 2007. The D90 in 2008 became the first digital single-lens reflex capable of high-definition video, inadvertently launching the independent filmmaking revolution. But perhaps no camera mattered more to everyday photographers than the D70. Released in 2004, it was Nikon's first digital single-lens reflex under $1,000. 6.1 megapixels, built like a tank. Simple enough for enthusiasts, capable enough for serious work. The D70 democratized digital photography. It told millions of people that the digital future wasn't reserved for professionals with unlimited budgets. It was for them too. For the parent photographing their children, for the traveler documenting distant lands, for the artist discovering their voice. By the mid-2000s, Nikon was printing money. Net profit hit 75.4 billion yen in 2007. Market dominance seemed inevitable, permanent. But as technology raced forward, something changed. Something subtle at first, but devastating in its implications. Nikon's confidence turned into complacency. Its strength became rigidity. The company that had revolutionized photography was about to be revolutionized by forces it didn't see coming. While Sony and Canon sprinted toward the future, Nikon hesitated, trapped by the shadow of its own legacy. The warning signs appeared early. Smartphones began devouring the compact camera market in the late 2000s. In just 3 years before 2015, camera revenue dropped 30%. The world was changing, and changing fast. Meanwhile, a new technology emerged that would reshape the entire industry. Mirrorless cameras. Smaller, lighter, more adaptable. With electronic viewfinders that showed exactly what the sensor saw, they offered capabilities that optical viewfinders never could. Sony embraced mirrorless early and aggressively, launching the Alpha 7 full-frame system in 2013. Canon experimented cautiously, but Nikon believed in the digital single-lens reflex. They'd built an empire on it. Why abandon what worked? Their first attempt at mirrorless, the Nikon 1 series launched in 2011, revealed the depth of their misunderstanding. Instead of creating a professional system, they built cameras with tiny sensors aimed at casual users. The J5, the V3, models that seemed designed by committee, lacking the boldness that made the F series legendary. The market rejected them. By 2018, the entire Nikon 1 line was discontinued. 7 years. 7 years watching Sony gain market share, watching Canon finally wake up and respond, while Nikon defended an architecture that professionals were quietly abandoning. The numbers told a brutal story. By 2015, profit had collapsed to 18.2 billion yen. By 2017, Nikon announced 1,000 job cuts. For the first time since 1999, interchangeable lens camera sales declined year over year. The unthinkable was happening. Nikon was losing its core market. In 2018, they finally released the Z6 and Z7. Full-frame mirrorless cameras with in-body image stabilization, electronic viewfinders, and that same familiar lens mount adapted for a new era. They were good cameras. Very good. But the industry had moved on. Sony's Alpha 7 series was in its third generation. Photographers had already committed to new systems. Brand loyalty, once Nikon's greatest asset, couldn't overcome a decade of missed opportunity. The eclipse wasn't sudden. It was slow, inexorable. The kind of decline you don't notice day by day until you look back and realize how far you've fallen. It took over a decade, but Nikon finally learned to fight like a startup again. The turning point came when Nikon stopped trying to defend what they'd been and started building what they needed to become. The Z6 Mark II and Z7 Mark II refined the foundation in 2020. The ZFC brought retro design to mirrorless, capturing hearts with classic aesthetics and modern capability. Then in 2021 came the Z9, a camera that announced louder than any marketing campaign ever could that Nikon was back. No mechanical shutter, 8K video, speeds that left even veteran professionals speechless. This wasn't Nikon playing catch-up anymore. This was Nikon pushing boundaries again, reminding the world why they'd earned respect in the first place. In 2024, they made a move nobody predicted, acquiring Red Digital Cinema. Red, the maverick company that had transformed cinema cameras. The partnership signaled ambition beyond traditional photography. Nikon wasn't just surviving, it was evolving. The results started showing. Fiscal year 2025 saw imaging division growth of 5.6%, driven by high-end mirrorless bodies and exceptional lenses. Global camera shipments surged 116.6% in the first half of 2025 compared to the previous period. And then in May 2025 came the moment nobody expected. In Japan, Nikon captured 33.4% of the mirrorless market, ahead of Sony at 32.1%, ahead of Canon at 24%. For the first time in over a decade, Nikon held the top position in mirrorless. The camera that drove that success? The Z5 Mark II. Not their flagship, not their most expensive model, but a camera that did exactly what the D70 had done 20 years earlier. Gave exceptional capability to enthusiasts who believed in Nikon, but couldn't afford the absolute best. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, and Nikon remembered the melody. Every Nikon camera tells the same story, not of technology, but of vision. A vision that began more than a century ago in post-war Japan, when engineers chose to build rather than surrender. A vision refined through decades of reliability, earning the trust of professionals who documented humanity's most critical moments. A vision tested by hubris and complacency, nearly lost to rivals who moved faster and adapted quicker. But also a vision reborn, tempered by failure, strengthened by humility. Nikon's influence spans generations. The photographer who covered Vietnam with an F taught the photojournalist shooting today with a Z9. The parent who bought a D70 to capture their children's childhood inspired those same children to pick up Z-series cameras of their own. Tools become legacies. Legacies become stories. What defines Nikon isn't any single camera. It's the persistent belief that craftsmanship matters, that reliability matters, that when you point a lens at something precious, the tool in your hands should honor that moment with precision and care. From military optics in wartime to lunar missions in the space age, from the revolutionary F to the digital D1 to the mirrorless Z9, through triumph and near collapse and improbable comeback, the vision endures, adapted, refined, but fundamentally unchanged. Because in the end, Nikon's story reminds us of something essential. It's not the fall that defines you, it's how you rise again. This was Nikon's century-long journey, a story of resilience, innovation, and rebirth, of learning that even legends must evolve or face extinction, of discovering that the path back to greatness sometimes requires abandoning the very things that made you great in the first place. If you enjoyed exploring this history, subscribe to Alt Buzz Archives, where we preserve the legends behind the lenses. From the creators of Alt Buzz, this channel is dedicated to the stories that time almost forgot, the human drama behind the tools we love, the decisions that shaped industries, the legacies that continue to inspire. Thank you for watching. And remember, every great photograph begins with vision. Nikon simply gave us the tools to capture it.